course, so we'll call Dee and Steve and Daniel to come up and grab some chairs. I'm going to move that one. There's a heavy bag attached. What's your backpack there, John? Thank you. Matty, you look too healthy to get chocolates, but I'll take them over there for you because I don't want you to feel like you're missing out. Real questions. Anyone? Shane? Yep, question.
The Delta battery system for home use, how long before you think they'll actually be commercially available?
Sorry, are you referring to just the hybrid energy storage system or the integration with the EV charging?
Both.
Oh, both. So the hybrid energy system is already available now, so that's available. But the integration with the EV charging, we're just building the demonstrator right now. As you can imagine, the control algorithms are the interesting part. We are working together with CSRO to finish that off. So hopefully middle of next year.
Question primarily directed at our charge network operators. And look, my apologies, I was in the other session next door, first session. So
on YouTube, you can watch it over and over and over again. It's actually that interesting.
No, I saw yours. In case this was covered earlier this morning, it seems to be all about the billing network and owning the customer. Now, if I go and buy a coffee, I don't have to be part of a Starbucks network. I just give them my credit card, tap it, and $4 later I've got a coffee. I fill up my internal combustion engine, I go to a service station, I tap my credit card. I don't care, well I do care, but I don't need to be part of the Caltex network to fill up my car with petrol. Why do I have to be part of a billing network? Why can't I just tap my credit card?
Okay, yeah, you can, and that is an option, but there are some significant advantages to having an actual direct relationship, and so one of them is that the apps that we provide as networks allow you to see the real-time availability of charging stations and book them and interact with them. So once you've started a charge session, because they take possibly 25 minutes, maybe half an hour, during that time, if you are a customer of ours with an account, we can keep you informed. So the app can be telling you how your charging session is progressing, telling you if the problems occur, and they do. So yeah, tapping and paying for the pay pass type system is all entirely doable, but then you lose that interaction and feedback. Up to you.
Like free coffees when you're charging.
But we're absolutely, I mean, I know that we are totally committed to interoperability so that you're not locked down to using our chargers or, having to carry 6 different fobs for 6 different networks.
70 different networks in Germany, and they carry around the fobs to initiate the charge. And that's what we're trying to avoid in New Zealand. And that's what we want you guys to never do. So make sure that there's portability. That's like, rule number 1 you need to talk to.
I think we already have that problem here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so
Why are you not solved it already?
But hang on, Stephen D, do you own the only charge network in New Zealand at this
The
stage?
only nationwide one.
Yeah,
The only nationwide one. Is
we own the only network that...
I had a soundbite!
Yeah, I'm sure you did, but the only network of stations that has customers sign up with billing. Because there are networks, which is as in people own multiple charging stations, but they're just free, so people don't sign up.
Yeah, you go.
No, I think you were alluding to where I was going next about, needing to sign up to so many different networks, and I think you were about to address that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the added advantage of going with OCPP, the open protocol. It facilitates the roaming of the networks when there's more, if there's another network provider setting up in New Zealand and as more pop up in Australia, it facilitates that roaming platform so customers can only have, or will only have one membership to use the multiple stations. Now, as far as the pay pass and no membership usage, that's something we're looking into, but Steve's right in the side of, I guess, like the data and the customer engagement and having that sort of community around EV charging. I think it's beneficial to both us as operators and the customer in the long run.
I've got your TV ad too. You get Steve to put a little ball scarf thing on and have no shirt, and he can open the boot and go, one ring to rule them all. Real questions?
No, just a statement. I think the central billing scenario is an important piece for fleet as well.
Amen,
so
yes.
Just like we have arrangements with fuel companies, central billing, to be able to provide a product for our customers, central.
And we can interface with other people's billing system. Like we can have people own their customers, and then our system will throw it onto their
Yeah, that's called roaming. So
yeah. Anyway.
No, and the other really, so here's the kind of counter argument as well, is that what we're moving to, and I think this will happen very, very quickly, is this auto charge or plug and charge system, and that's even better than PayPass, because you plug it in and it's just immediately charging and you don't have to think about it.
Margaret Lamond, we were former Canberra residents, and my question is to Daniel. We own a Leaf. We arrived in Canberra with range anxiety, 2 bars left to get to Tuggeranong, where our son lives, and we thought, well, we can charge in Civic, no problem. But we found 3 days later that we had to sign a form, had to send it in, it was just an impossible system. Has this improved?
Yes.
That's good.
We currently have, so that would have been maybe a year ago at least. Yeah. At the moment we have an online portal, so anyone can join anytime. The only delay is the posting of the RFID card at the moment. Exactly.
So counterexample, ChargeNet New Zealand, you can call a toll-free number 24 hours a day and start charging immediately. Sign up over the phone. You don't need to wait for anything to be delivered.
But we need to do something about that, because sometimes people just call to have a chat. So yeah, we need to...
That's a 0055 number and it's $1.60 a minute. Did you notice that someone actually spent 3 days in Canberra and they weren't on the same roundabout?
I was going to add that you can also call up and we can remote charge your vehicle. You can also join the network with via a phone. So.
Can I say that just recently we went to the destination charger at the airport because that gave us sufficient days to get to Tuggeranong.
There's a DC fast charger at the airport now. Sorry, a Tesla, did you say?
Tesla destination charger outside of Toys R Us in the Jura Park.
Why not?
It's very simple and no paperwork.
Toys R Us, see, you've charged for free there and they've gone. Go ahead.
Daniel, I've charged at your network. This icing thing and this electric vehicle preferred, that's very wimpy signage. Does that reflect the fact that anyone can actually be in that spot? I know a lot of people have been ICE. Is there any prohibition on ICEs, or is it just free for all?
So that comes from the site host's preferral of the marking of the bays. So given we don't own the land, we're obviously donating the charging infrastructure for free, installing it for free, reimbursing electricity costs. But as Dee and Steve mentioned before, there's an education piece around saying what the benefits are. So a lot of people say eventually, yes, we want the charger, but I don't want you to put electric vehicle only because I only have 10 spaces in my car's parking area and I don't want to block that out to my other customers. And as far as, so your 2-part question was like, how are we going to block?
People depend on these charges.
Yes, agree. So We're working with the ACT government at least to see if we can facilitate a bit more policing around the parking in these spaces. But without a physical barrier, we can't stop people from parking in.
It's only preferred. You can't police preferred.
Well, that's what we'll be working towards, and it comes back to the site owner again. It's their land, it's their preference at the end of the day.
So how we do it is, this is part of the reason that finding sites takes so long and reaching site agreements takes so long, is we absolutely insist on EV only, EV charging only, and 24/7 access. So we never put them behind gates that close at night or anything like that. And we will tow internal combustion vehicles if they ice out our parks.
Because we do have more penetration as well, we've got problems with congestion, and so you guys should have the conversations about etiquette now, when it's still fairly new and it's just pioneers, because it does get busy and people do get pretty grumpy.
And that's yet another advantage of having that customer relationship, is we can allow messaging. So if someone comes along, finds a charger that someone's plugged into and they're full but they haven't moved, you can message them through the app and say, hey, piss off.
Sorry, I've got a question for all, I guess, all of the Charge Network type folks. What we did in the West was we made sure that there was a level 2 charger close by to the DC fast charger, and we made sure that it had its own separate parking bay. I'm just wondering, have you done a similar thing in New Zealand?
So not yet, not in general, but it is a good idea, and we're certainly considering doing that. It would be an extension of, I think we would have to work. It's difficult because the level 2 means by definition it's going to be, the car's going to be parked there much longer, and so it's a different type of host, because most of our hosts are, we've found them because they have dwell times that match the charge times of the cars, so supermarkets and even petrol stations, and so the difference between half an hour and say 6 hours is, you know, a very different type of host.
Our motivation was that we couldn't afford 2 fast chargers, but we could afford 1 fast charger and 11:30.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're more like long-term parking buildings rather than immediately adjacent to the DC.
Yeah, just a bit of a follow-on from that. When you have congested sites, how do you manage queuing or other parking bays like waiting to charge? That sort of thing that will come to all of us.
Okay, so we almost all of our sites have 2 car parks per DC charger in the first place, but beyond that, it's mainly managed by the customers, and they self-manage queuing.
We have a lot of internet jamming, so like we've got a community called It's True Though. They'll post a picture of your car, and if you get iced, then that'll go online and it'll go everywhere, and it's naming and shaming, and people's behavior improves. I was actually named and shamed because I parked and I didn't plug in, so I had to do an apology video. But yeah, so that's it. It's just etiquette.
It sort of all works with most of us as early adopters because we know each other, we recognise the car, we've probably got the person's phone number to ring.
Absolutely, we're exactly the same.
When we're talking about going mainstream and thousands of cars, have you got an idea for the future of how to manage that?
Well, the thing is, there's assholes everywhere, right? That's just humanity. So
I once went when Adelaide had only 1 fast charger. It was iced.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is again yet another advantage to having that direct customer relationship, is that we can manage that queuing process via the back-end system, whereas if it's just PayWave or PayPass, there's no opportunity to do that. But also because of our billing model, we are highly incentivized to put in more charges. If a site is getting so busy that there's actual genuine congestion, then it's making good money, and we should put more charges in.
I've got a question for Daniel, and probably a comment on the queuing business. Question for Daniel first. You've gone from time to energy, time only to energy only. Why not both? The reality is, as our ChargeNet friends have, and many other networks, the advantage as I see it is that, as you're saying, you disadvantage the low capacity vehicles if they're on an expensive charger that's not being used very well. But you're also, by putting a time charge on, you encourage people to leave when they're full. And I would argue that that time charge runs for as long as you're connected, whether you're charging or not, which is another reason not to occupy a charger. Have you thought about it, and what's your rationale?
Yes, keep it simple. So the whole explanation of, and not to rag on your model or anything, but yeah, time and consumption is just, it's the added complexity. We're just trying to, I guess, correctly reflect the usage of the customer. Adding time adds complexity. I do agree, if someone's parked there for too long, we should bill them accordingly, but yeah, that's the main reason why we're going towards energy consumption, is that inequity that exists across the models.
Yeah. And so the trouble with energy only, of course, is it gives people no reason to stop at any particular state of charge. And as I'm sure you know, DC fast chargers get slower and slower and slower as the battery gets closer to full. Even by 80%, they're often down to 10 kilowatts. And so going beyond that point is really a waste of an incredibly expensive and valuable resource. And we find that our customers, we've got a couple of thousand customers, and they have no trouble understanding that they're paying for the energy and they're leasing the machine off us per minute while they charge.
The energy we're just breaking even on, like we're just breaking even on the energy, so we're basically charging what we pay for the electricity. So essentially, our business model is we're renting the machine to the customer at 25 cents per minute. So the return on investment on something like that with average usage is about, like we said during the presentation, 7 years. And we agree, keep it super simple, but we also kind of want to keep it fair. And yeah, this is what we're going for. And everybody's got an opinion about how to charge and what to charge, but that's what we do.
And the nice thing about our hybrid model is that we can scale it very easily to different power levels. So a 25 kilowatt wall box, we can charge less per minute, say 10 cents per minute. And when we go to 350 kilowatts, then that will be a lot more per minute.
Oh, just a question. So with that model combining energy and time use, does your software or app suggest any sweet spot for the operator, the user? I mean, to say from which point onwards it becomes less efficient?
Well, during charge we report in real time the actual power that's being delivered, so the customers can see it and respond appropriately. Up to them whether they want to pay through the nose.
Okay, just very quickly, a second question. On the queuing thing, my calculations are that an average use or occupancy of 4 hours a day is as much as you can tolerate in the long term on your busy times. Your busy days, you'd be occupied 12 hours a day, because on average you're less, you don't have busy days every day. Is that your experience or anything like that?
In our experience, the usage doesn't follow, it's a pretty flat distribution across the week. So, and we have all the stats on that, and there's very little difference between weekends and weekdays.
Holiday periods and things like that?
There's a spike during holidays.
Very occasionally. But, and then throughout the day, and I probably should have put some graphs into the presentation, but because this is a fairly technical audience, the usage is practically nil until about 9 o'clock in the morning, when it ramps up very quickly, and then it's flat from about 1 p.m. through to 3 or 4 p.m. and then it there's no peak. It then tails off and has quite a long tail all the way through to about midnight. So by about 6 p.m. the usage is probably half as much as midday. But we see some sessions after midnight, but not many.
Sorry, question from me. Have you had any requests for load management from network operators in any of the locations?
Well, we own the power connections, and so we, in New Zealand at least, there's a break point as far as the size of a connection at 69 kVA, or equivalent to 100 amps at 400 volts. And of course the 50 kilowatt charging station fits very nicely under that, and we can even put a 25 kilowatt on the same connection and be pretty much within that constraint. But yeah, of course, as we go to mixed, and many more charges, then we will be doing that. And OCPP 1.6 is what enables that from the central system standpoint.
Just a follow-on question for Steve. In regards to your rate per kilowatt hour and rate per minute, is there an incentive for you to have a lower rate in the early morning, so that machines can actually get used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Is there any incentive to do that?
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't done yet, just because, again, I mean, complexity, they're trying to explain that to customers, and it's already complex enough, I think. Our electricity retailer that we buy our electricity from, which is a zero carbon certified supplier, so it's all hydro and wind, they have a range of different plans, some of which are time of use based and others which are flat rate, and we've just gone for the flat rate plan. So our cost is fixed, doesn't change based on the time of day, so that's what we pass on to customers. There are some, in New Zealand we have that same stratification where the generators and retailers are distinct from the distribution and transmission, and some areas of New Zealand are about to, as of like April next year, are going to compulsorily charge different rates based on the time of use, and that will then force our costs to change depending on day or night, and or peak and off peak. And so I think it would be best for us to pass that through to the customers, and then that will influence their behaviour.
So you can see the rates changing dynamically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, that was really complex. The other really nice thing about the software is we white label to people, so they have control over how they charge and what they charge and when they charge and all that kind of stuff. So the really nice thing about it is, like, we can start thinking about taking 10% off for high volume users off of their bills, so on and so forth. So can the people that license our software. So we just want to make the customer experience amazing and simple, and yeah, so we think about all these things, and when you're ready you can buy our software in Australia too. And it'll be awesome.
Awesome, thanks.
Is it a real question? We're not bashing people who've got other networks, are we?
I have a genuine question for Matti. Battery buffering of DC fast chargers. But we have the same situation here as what Steve just outlined. Once you get above a certain size, essentially the customer has to pay for the lion's share of a cost for a transformer. Have you done the economics? Is it actually simply cheaper to put in another transformer with a larger capacity when it's supplying a particular site than to put all these batteries in to keep the load down?
Simple answer, no, I haven't done the economics just yet. I'm just looking at the technical feasibility first to collect some data, what the real charge cycles would look like, what the impact on the network connection would be. So I have some data to crunch my economic model with. So that's, for me, the first step.
Mr. West is the first person I've heard call a car an internal combustion engine for some time.
This is for the Wests. How are you funded?
We pay for it.
Oh, so
you've
just
played the stock market and made
No. So back in 1998, I founded a company called Serato, which makes DJ software that turned out to be very, very successful.
And it still is.
And so that Serato I still own half the company, and it's has 120 employees, mostly based out of Auckland in New Zealand.
98% of the market share in the US.
Oh, I thought it was a common alley now. I was just going to leave it here and let you pass. Oh, we've got another gentleman with a question after that. Internal combustion engine? Almost sounds like, prejudice.
It's a question for the West, because when are you guys coming to Australia to build our
As soon as
networks?
humanly possible, Daddy.
Because,
hang on.
We can't spend our own money.
because you guys are all over this, and you're the only people I've heard that really understand what EV drivers need.
Yeah,
It
because
is-
we are.
It is incredible.
We are EV
I know
drivers.
you are, and that's where it all fits into place, and you're just blowing me away.
We're
Absolutely
100% EV family. We have 7 EVs. Is it 8? 7. Well, so yeah. Well, you just crashed one too. So yeah, we've got 4 Teslas. So 1 Roadster, 1 P85 Plus, 1 P85D, and 1 Model X P100D that Dee crashed the other day. We have a Nissan Leaf, or we did until I wrote it off. We have the BMW i3. We have a Mitsubishi iMove.
Well, look, I promise you, I'm coming to New Zealand just to drive your network.
Right,
absolutely, thank
you. But the question is, why? When are we coming to Australia? And the difficulty is that Australia, isn't super friendly to EVs right now. So,
but nor was New Zealand when you started.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but the story, with the renewable electricity generation on our grid makes EVs a much easier sell than in Australia, which
in South Australia, we're halfway there. So.
Okay, in all sincerity though, a very major part of the success of New Zealand is the community. So we were exactly what you are 3 years ago, and we want to come over here and help you get the press penetration and get the conversations going in Canberra, and we will absolutely do that, and we just need to figure out how. So a couple of drinks and dinner tonight, and we'll make a plan, set some dates up, and we'll make it happen.
Tell them they run on coal and you'll be right in Canberra. Peter, you're the ex-CEO of Aurora Energy. Does this all sound... Marketing? No, well, come on. The bloke above you just played golf. Does this all make sense as a business model for Tasmania today?
It could do. There's a lot of similarities we have here in the community and the green energy and tourism and moving around and all that. So it makes a lot of sense. We don't have the scale, and scale is always a problem for Tasmania.
Yeah.
And being able to get the product, getting the cars is always a problem. So it certainly makes sense for Tasmania.
That's the cars. That's a very good point. So New Zealand has a, we've addicted. We have an addiction to importing used vehicles, mainly from Japan, some from the UK, and with one of the big reasons that we've lobbied so hard to switch from Type 1 to Type 2 was to enable the used vehicles from Europe, from like the UK and Ireland, and that was successful. So it unfortunately meant we had to go around and swap out all the cables on all the CCS cables on our charging stations. But we did it, and it was easily worthwhile because now we have such a huge range of cars coming in. Like that photo from yesterday that showed like a dozen models of EV in the UK. That's what we have now in New Zealand. We have the Ioniq, and we have the e-Golf, and they're all coming, and they're all Type 2.
So lunchtime, Penny. Well, Roy's got a question, and he's a pretty good speaker, so...
Thanks. Just 2 questions. One, last time I was in New Zealand, all the Uber drivers were driving imported, or dumped, for lack of a better word, Priuses. Is that a factor in your market there, of that they're too easy to buy those types of cars, and it's preventing mass EV uptake?
Well, yeah, and also people think... There's that, and also people think that a hybrid is an electric car in New Zealand still. Like we've got a long way to go on educating the public, but I don't see that they're competing. Our biggest asset is actually getting bums on seats at events, and then people go out and buy an electric car. Once they've driven one, they go, oh, and they don't mix up hybrid and electric anymore.
Yeah, and there's still a 4-to-1 ratio in the cost of petrol in New Zealand versus the cost of electricity to run a car the same distance. That's for the average fleet consumption of 10 litres per 100 k's. So a Prius does a lot better than that, maybe half that, but then an EV is half that again. And with so many used vehicles available, the cost for... you can buy a Nissan Leaf for $10,000 in New Zealand, right? So that's like 9,000 Aussie dollars.
You can get a beach beater for 7 grand.
Yeah, so that's just supply and demand. Last month, over 400 EVs registered in New Zealand?
1 month.
In 1 month.
1 month. So yeah.
So,
All right, we get it.
We're coming. We'll help.
Thanks to our speakers, ladies and gentlemen, Matti, Steve, Dee West, thanks to our sponsor, of course, Quilter. Well done. Let's have lunch, and we'll see you back in an hour's time.